Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Getting Support, What Could Go Wrong During My Surrogacy Journey. Now, before we begin, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. Everyone is in listen-only mode today. If you do have any questions, please feel free to enter those questions in the control panel. You can enter questions throughout the webinar, and we'll be sure to answer them at the end. And as always, we are recording this webinar, and a copy will be emailed to all of you within the next few days. Now, today you'll be hearing from two of my colleagues here at Circle, first being Emily Sonier, who is our Director of Clinical and Program Support, followed by Amanda Caroca, who is our Senior Manager of Program Support. Now, to get it started, I'm going to hand it over to Emily.
Thank you,
Emily?
Jen. Yep, thank you, Jen, and welcome to everyone on the webinar. Again, my name is Emily Sonier, and I am the Director of Clinical and Program Support here at Circle. And just to go over what we're hoping to cover today is some of the things that can come up in a surrogacy journey. So why parents might need support during a surrogacy, the different types of support that we provide at Circle. We're going to talk about some real life situations that have occurred, things that we commonly see during a surrogacy journey where our providing support, the way we provide support can be helpful to intended parents. And then when intended parents who are looking at other agencies are kind of trying to decide what type of agency they want to work with, we have some suggestions of things to ask other agencies as you talk about the support that they might provide. So I'll talk a little bit about, my role in some of these things around why parents might need support. So I have been at Circle for 10 years now. I have a social work background, and I am one of the people at Circle that provide intended parent support. We're an additional support program that might come in when certain things can happen. So just like any traditional pregnancy, things happen. Sometimes everything can go very smoothly, and sometimes there can be things that can happen both in the process that leads up to the pregnancy and also during a pregnancy. So we have intended parents that come to us from all over the world, and many of them have their own stories and difficulties prior to coming to Circle. What we see sometimes is many of our heterosexual couples who come to us have already gone through some level of infertility struggles themselves. And so when they come to us, they might already be struggling with, feeling hopeful, feeling like this is going to work. They might have some anxieties and worries about the process and want to know how we can best support them. Many of our same-sex couples might come without the infertility struggles, but they might, if they have a bump in the road, might feel that they then have, some emotional difficulties, need some support, help navigating what's happening so that they can feel better supported, feel like they know what to expect, et cetera, as they experience a bump in the road. And then we also support single intended parents who might not have, we want them to have a support person through this process, but they might not have someone to talk to on a regular basis about what they're experiencing. And so we want to make sure that we're also providing support to our single intended parents. Many of our intended parents might come to us with therapists or support systems, support groups, et cetera, already in place. And we strongly encourage that they continue with that during their journey. We are not here to replace therapists, but we have a lot of in-house support that we want to be able to provide to our intended parents as they go through this process. We have both, and Amanda will go over this a little bit about how our team is set up, but we have different people that would be connected to an intended parent that are there for the things that can happen during this process. And we also have been around for many, many years, and so we've had a lot of experiences, in regards to how to best support people. We often hear and we talk about with intended parents that you don't know what you don't know. And so our hope is that our experience and our ways that we have handled other situations in the past will help us as we talk to you about things you might experience in your own journeys. So go on to the next slide.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Caroca. I manage our team of program coordinators here at Circle and often work with intended parents, surrogates, and egg donors as they are going through their journeys. So now that we understand why a support system during a surrogacy journey is so important, I'd like to just review the services and the support that we offer at Circle so you have a better idea of what this might look like in practice. The benefit of partnering with a large agency like Circle is that we have the experience and the history to back what we're doing. We've been around now for 25 years, and quite honestly, surrogacy is complicated. Like Emily mentioned, you don't know what you don't know. And we find that no matter how much parents prepare and research and talk to others before they get started, they will still likely encounter unexpected obstacles along the way. Some of those are smaller and some of those are bigger. And over the years, as these things have popped up for us at Circle, we've been able to gather resources, develop plans, and help intended parents get back on track to the point that now almost nothing, maybe outside of a worldwide pandemic, surprises us or catches us off guard. The other important thing to mention is that within any surrogacy journey, there are many different professionals involved. There's the agency, a psychologist or a social worker, the IVF doctor, the OBGYN, the insurance company, attorneys, and the escrow management service. And these are all considered essential players in the process. At Circle, all of these people, with the exception of the two doctors, the IVF doctor, the OBGYN, and the insurance company, are considered in-house. So each intended parent will work with their individual team made up of a program manager or coordinator, their attorney that's in-house at Circle, and an accountant here. And we also have licensed social workers like Emily. I'm also a licensed social worker available on our intended parent support team that we can bring in as necessary. And this makes for a smooth and a more cohesive experience for intended parents, and it allows us to easily support them, not only emotionally, but also with the financial and the legal aspects as well. And when something goes wrong, and we'll give a few examples in a couple of minutes, we're able to gather together quickly as a Circle team. We're able to formulate a plan and communicate with intended parents and their surrogate without having to make referrals out or to deal with, complicated scheduling of trying to get everybody together. Also, while our main office is in Boston, we also have another location in the Bay Area, and we have team members located across the country. So as the person who's responsible for matching intended parents with our Circle team members when they first join us, I'm always mindful of where IPs are coming from geographically, and I try to match them with someone in their area if possible, so that they have the opportunity to meet in person if necessary. We also have a few team members who live in Europe, and I know that they're always more than willing to speak with intended parents if something happens along the way. The other thing that's not listed here, but I think it's important to note, is that about 40% of our team are former intended parents, surrogates, or egg donors through our program, or their parents through IVF or adoption. So not only do we have the professional experience to help manage the setbacks or complications that may occur, we also have the personal experience, and I think that adds an extra layer of mutual understanding and comfort for our intended parents. We think creatively. I think because we are full service and our team is interdisciplinary, we're able to process different perspectives on the same issue, meaning not only do we care about helping clients cope emotionally with a concern, we also care about their financial and their legal security, which makes for more well-rounded solutions to the problems that they face. We're constantly reevaluating the services that we provide. We're constantly trying to improve and to innovate. A few examples. So for many years, we've promoted known egg donation as opposed to anonymous, which is now considered the standard across many agencies across the country. And also about 5 years ago or so, we started our fixed cost program to help alleviate the variability in cost for intended parents. And we've seen other clinics and agencies start offering similar programs today. I think one of the most important notes of all here is that we'll be your advocates. We will have your back no matter what. We'll talk to you privately about what options you may have in a situation, and we'll be your voice when managing third parties. So one example here is that as a routine, we will call the delivery hospital. We'll ask whether the parents can stay overnight in a hospital room with their baby. If the hospital says yes, great, that's what we want. If they say no, we will immediately ask for other accommodations available to make sure that parents have the physical space and the time to bond with their baby after birth. Because we've been around for so long, our team as a whole is well connected, and we have access to many different resources and networks within the fertility and the surrogacy world. And then lastly, we offer means for parents to connect with each other. It's so important for you to feel like you're not alone, that there are others you can talk to as you go through your surrogacy journey. We offer social worker-led support groups, either for various topic-based discussion, for particular geographic regions, or for those who are in a similar phase of the process. And we also offer private groups through social media channels that allow intended parents to connect with each other.
So it's Emily again. I'm going to talk a little bit about some real life situations that we commonly experience that we want to help our intended parents and surrogates with. So we are a relationship-based agency. Our focus is both on intended parents developing a relationship with us at Circle, learning, for all of us to trust one another, as well as we want the intended parents to be open to having a relationship with the surrogate during the process. Part of any relationship, any good relationship, is around communication. So one of the things we want to make sure is that when you're considering matching with a surrogate, you think about your communication preferences. We do encourage weekly contact between intended parents and surrogates. And so for some of our intended parents, we want them to think about, are you someone who might want to speak on a daily basis with your surrogate? Are you happy with having a once a week communication, some sort of video, FaceTime chat, just to build a relationship and get to know her, build trust, etc.? Or are you someone who, is quite busy with your life and your work, and you want to be able to match up with a surrogate who has a similar communication expectation? So we do a lot of things in the beginning just to try to help facilitate a strong match between intended parents and a surrogate. We still find, though, however, that things can be tricky at different times. This is a long process. There are a lot of things that can occur, and we want to make sure that there's a good personality fit, but sometimes things can still happen. You can have a situation that might occur, and I'll give an example of something that we've often gotten involved with, which is that once intended parents and surrogates get matched and they're moving forward in an IVF cycle, some surrogates can be incredibly excited. They've been waiting and waiting to get to this point. They can, talk with their social worker, who's their support person, about how excited they are and how they're looking forward to all the next steps. And they have a Skype meeting or a FaceTime meeting with their intended parents, and they come away from that meeting feeling like there might be something wrong. They don't really understand what's happening. Their intended parents seemed kind of, not super excited. And when we follow up with the intended parents and talk with them a little bit about sort of how they're feeling as they take this step, the intended parents can often say, we've never had anything work out for us in this way. We've had failed transfers before, we've had miscarriages. And so for us to go to an IVF transfer and get to this point, while we want to be hopeful, we might be really, feeling cautious or almost even like preparing themselves for the worst. And so their affect and their communication to the surrogate might be really either flat or distant, or not very excited. And so we often want to then at that point get involved, help the intended parents speak to the surrogate about how they're feeling, and talk about, we are cautiously optimistic, but we aren't in a place where we can be super excited right now because we've never had anything work out. But we do understand why you're excited, and we are happy you're excited, and we want to, make sure that we're supporting you, but we don't want you to take how we're presenting as a criticism of you or something wrong. So that might be an example where, having a social worker involved with a surrogate, having a coordinator involved with the intended parents, and then sometimes the help of the intended parent support team, we can help facilitate those conversations so that everyone's on the same page and no one's, misinterpreting what's happening. Other situations that can take place during the journey, obviously, egg donors or intended mothers can go through retrievals that don't have the outcome that they were hoping for. Not every transfer results in a success, so there can be a failed transfer at the IVF stage. Just like any pregnancy, miscarriages do occur. So, there's the statistics around miscarriage are pretty similar to the, people who are not doing surrogacy. So intended parents can have that experience, and sometimes, and it's not common, but sometimes there can be pregnancy complications that occur during the process. And we want to make sure that we are, again, getting involved and meeting with everybody involved. One example in regards to the failed transfer is that, we've had, and I've talked to many intended parents at, when they've had maybe 2 failed transfers with their IVF process, they're feeling, start to feel kind of unhappy, worried. Is it the surrogate? Is it the embryos? Is it the clinic? Like, what's happening? Have you seen this before? What types of things should we be thinking about? So often in those situations, we would get involved, either I would or one of the managers at Circle who's involved with the intended parents would schedule a time to talk to them. We'd look at things like, we always look at the, embryo quality, the egg, the sperm. We look at the surrogate. We look at the IVF clinic and all the different things that we need to take into consideration to look at what might be the cause of the 2 failed transfers in hopes of having a successful 3rd transfer. We've navigated people through this many times, and so we do end up having a list of questions that we suggest intended parents take back to their IVF doctor to talk about things, to consider different options, to think about what will be different next time, what kinds of things should we be doing, so that intended parents get to the stage that they want to, which is the pregnancy stage. And like with any of these setbacks or complications, we will always be available to our intended parents. We have navigated these things with our intended parents, and so we have, again, the experience and sort of the list of questions, things to think about, ways to best support intended parents as they experience these things.
And in terms of challenges with third parties, I mean, even though our agency is considered full service, we're not the only professionals you would encounter. I mentioned that earlier. The challenge that comes with working with third parties, meaning any professional outside of the agency, is that we don't have control over their communication, their processes, even their costs. And this can be frustrating for parents, and it can cause concern. So with regard to the IVF clinics, we have good relationships with most of the IVF clinics that our intended parents choose. Sometimes intended parents will choose a clinic that we've never worked with, and we'll do our best to get together and explain how our process works, ask some questions about how they work, and it's fairly simple for us to give the doctor, the team, a call when necessary to help advocate for intended parents or surrogates. This can be around communication style, could be around obtaining and communicating test results, scheduling consultations with your doctor in the cases like Emily mentioned with poor outcomes around the IVF stage, just general protocols. Insurance companies is another situation, but I wanted to focus on the OBGYN and the prenatal providers. The thing that comes up most here is having intended parents be able to participate in the early stages of the pregnancy. A surrogate is released from the IVF doctor's care around 10 weeks of pregnancy, and up until that point, the intended parents had direct access to their doctor, which is the IVF doctor. So this transition to the OB can sometimes cause intended parents some anxiety. And I'm actually dealing with this right this week with another couple. We ask all surrogates to sign a release form with their OB granting permission for the doctor to speak with the parents about the pregnancy. We ask that all of her IVF records get transferred over to the OB, and then we get involved, like I am this week, when parents are feeling like they're not getting the information that they want from the doctor. And there's many things we can try. We can't control what the doctor will do. Some doctors prefer phone calls or emails, some prefer to communicate through the surrogate, and if that's the case, we'll work on having a nice solid communication plan between intended parents and surrogate to make sure all of the questions get answered. And then, we can't forget about COVID-19. I don't think anyone could have predicted what we're currently facing with this pandemic. It's affected our clients in a few important ways. The first is with clinic shutdowns and just general delays. There was a month-long period of time where IVF clinics were forced to close. They were not able to complete medical screenings, egg retrievals, or embryo transfers. And then once things reopened, I was on the phone daily, sometimes more than once, to speak with the doctors, to understand their new protocols, help them prioritize which patients should be seen first, support parents and surrogates to assess the risks involved with moving forward. And not everyone wanted to move forward, and that's perfectly okay. We also struggled at first with getting international parents here for the birth of their babies. With international borders closed, it was challenging to find ways to get the parents here, but luckily our legal team has been incredibly successful in having parents petition the embassies in their home country to get exemptions from the travel ban. And it requires some paperwork that we draft on their behalf. And I believe all but one intended parent has made it here in time for the birth of their baby so far. And then the last thing is with hospitals. This is hospital specific, but we've seen some restrictions on visitation, which could translate into who is allowed in the delivery room. So we've appealed to hospital supervisors, or our legal team has gotten on the phone with their legal team. We've drafted letters. And again, we've been pretty successful in having most parents involved in the room at the time of the birth, if that's what they want.
So in regards to this next slide with questions to ask other agencies about what types of support they offer, I think it's important. Amanda had mentioned earlier, we have many different levels of support offered in-house, and different agencies provide different levels of support, and how much of it happens within the agency itself and how much of it is a referral out. So it's a good idea, in our opinion, just to ask any agency you're talking to is what type of parent support do they offer, and then who's providing that? Is it someone that works for that agency? Is it that they have a social worker or a licensed psychologist or other professional that you can meet with that sees all their other patients? Do they help connect you to somebody in your own community that can provide the support? And do the people that you're speaking to have experience specific to surrogacy and the different kind of levels of things that might occur during the surrogacy? We often have intended parents that we connect with other intended parents, and so it's also a good idea to ask other agencies, do they have former intended parents that you can talk to hear a little bit more about their experience with both what happened during their journey and also how did the agency support them? And do they have anybody going through the process right now that would be willing to talk to you? I think it's also good idea to ask just for some examples of situations that the agency has handled and how they have handled it. They may have been around for a while and have had some good examples of things that have gone wrong and be able to provide support to you. And there may be other agencies or that might not have had the same level of experience and haven't had as many difficulties occur. And so it might be good to hear just how they would handle something if it occurred. What would be their thought process? What kinds of support would you get as intended parents? And what types of professionals would they have involved if a situation did occur? Okay. So I think at this point, we're going to open up some questions. I think people can read through this, but we're offering private consultations, and so the contact information is here. I'll go through some of the questions that we've seen. One question, just to mention, that is a common question we get often, and an understandable question that intended parents have is, have you ever had a situation where a surrogate has tried to keep the baby? And the answer is no. We have never had a situation where a surrogate has wanted to keep the baby. And more often than not, we have surrogates who make sure that the intended parents are going to be there to participate in the delivery and also take their baby at the end, because they have their own families that they're focused on. They understand throughout this whole entire process that they are having this baby for someone else, and that many, if not all of our surrogates feel incredibly grateful to develop a relationship during the way and to be able to then be there as the person who's kind of participating in the delivery and seeing the intended parents become parents or build their family if they're already parents, and have that emotional connection and just experience of handing the baby or having the baby handed by medical staff to the new parents. So we've never had a situation where a surrogate has tried to keep the baby. one person's asking if there's a list of IVF clinics that we routinely work with. So Circle, many of our intended parents that come to Circle have a clinic already in place. They've already done some level of either gone through and created embryos themselves, or they've consulted with a IVF doctor that they want to continue to work with through the surrogacy. So we allow people to come to Circle with a clinic already in place. We just ask to be able to be connected so we understand what their matching requirements are, how they work the process to make sure they know who's involved on the Circle end, and how we handle things, because not all surrogacy agencies do the level of screening before matching that we do. So we want to make sure that the IVF clinic understands that. If someone comes to us and they don't have a clinic in place, we often, will connect them to a clinic based on sort of what they're looking for in regards to if location is important. We have clinics that we work with all over the country, some on the East Coast, some on the West Coast, and then some in between. So we often sort of find out, what type of relationship are you looking for with a doctor, what type of personality you're looking for, but we do routinely, refer out to IVF clinics we have a good history with, that we've seen good results with, and we know work hard to keep the costs down. So certainly if you're looking for an IVF clinic to consult with, I would suggest getting in touch with Lauren, listed here, to talk a little bit about what your experience is, what you're looking for, so that she can, give you some suggestions of IVF clinics to work with. Okay, so the next question is, thank you, social freeze. So I think you mean you might have done some embryo freezing or sperm or egg freezing in Germany, and is it possible to use these for the process? So transporting biology across, into the United States has to typically follow FDA regulations. And so in that situation, what we would suggest is getting in touch with us, and we can connect you, if you aren't already connected, to an IVF doctor here in the States, so you can understand what is possible and is not possible with what you've already done in Germany. Because we want to make sure the clinics in this country, in order to transfer biology into a third party being the surrogate, they need to make sure they're following the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration requirements that we have here in the States. But a doctor can kind of talk you through what is allowable or not right now. Hopefully that answers your question. Do we see a higher demand for surrogacy in the US? I think perhaps what you mean is, are we seeing more people looking for surrogates in the United States as opposed to maybe in the past? But, and I don't, so we have seen, we have continued to grow. As I said, I've been at Circle for 10 years, and we have continued to grow over the time I've been here. We manage, a high number of journeys every year. So we have seen that the demand for surrogates in the United States has continued to grow over time. We are very careful to make sure that the surrogates meet all of our screening protocols, and that they are approved by an IVF doctor prior to matching with you. So we want to make sure that we're, taking all the sort of important things into consideration. So many intended parents from outside the US find our level of screening and sort of what we navigate here in the States to make sure we're meeting expectations as to be very important. So I don't know if I answered your question, or if you want to ask any more in regards to that to make sure I answered. I don't, anyway. So those were the only questions. I don't know if anyone else has any further questions or not, but I'll wait a second to see if anybody types. Oh wait, yep, somebody does, sorry. So who takes care of a surrogate during the pregnancy? So Amanda, do you want to answer this one? I mean, I can, but I'll let you answer it. So who takes care of a surrogate during the pregnancy?
So a surrogate will typically choose an OBGYN or sometimes a midwife, so long as the midwife has an OBGYN in the practice. We generally consider it to be her choice who her prenatal provider is. Oftentimes it's the same provider that took care of her during pregnancies past. Every woman that wants to be a surrogate has to have had at least one pregnancy before. So they're all moms, they've all been pregnant before, and they will often use the same provider for their surrogacy pregnancy that they did for their own pregnancies. That being said, if intended parents are uncomfortable with the specific provider that she's chosen, or they don't have a great experience, surrogates can be willing to either change. It sort of depends on what the circumstances are for the change. Insurance plays an important role in this as well. We want to make sure it's considered in network to keep costs down for you. It will depend on the delivery hospital, because not every doctor can deliver at every hospital. It will depend on their privileges. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but generally we consider it the surrogate's choice unless there's an issue, and then we'll talk about what's going on to make a change to make everyone feel comfortable. I hope I answered your question.
All right, I'm just opening the questions. I lost a little bit. Okay, so the next question is, what kind of process does a surrogate go through to get to the point of being matched? So we have a very thorough screening process, and if you want more detail than what I'll probably provide now, because of the time limitations, you certainly can look at our website at circlesurrogacy.com and just look at sort of what the surrogate goes through, as well as feel free to call and get in touch with Lauren to understand this a little bit more in depth. But we collect all sorts of records on a surrogate. We have multiple conversations with her. So we're collecting her previous delivery and pregnancy records. We are talking to her. We're doing a background check for anybody over the age of 18 in the home. We're talking in depth. We do a very in-depth social work screening of the surrogate, as well as a support person, so that being her partner, or if she's single, a best friend, a mother, a sister, et cetera, who's going to be supporting her through the process. And we do a number of different other checks and things to make sure that they meet our protocol sort of in regards to what we're looking for in a surrogate, as well as what the IVF doctor is looking for. So all the information, including some photos and a description of why she wants to be a surrogate, are all provided to an intended parent during the matching process before you are considered officially matched, as well as you schedule, we help facilitate scheduling a meeting between you and the surrogate so that you have a sense of personality, style, and communication, and you get a sense to know each other so that you can decide if you, want to be matched. But we have all that information provided to you prior to match. One of the questions around wait time, if the wait time is longer right now due to the pandemic or because people are home and more intended parents are considering surrogacy. So up until this point, we measure our wait times, every month, and kind of look at trends that we're seeing, because we want to be as accurate as we can when we provide matching estimates. And so, we hadn't up until recently seen a slowdown in matching. We were matching within our estimated time frame for intended parents, depending again on what they're looking for and if they have any restrictions in regards to locations. We have in the last couple of weeks seen a bit of a slowdown in surrogate applicants, probably because surrogates are feeling like many of us are feeling, which is that there's a lot of unknowns in regards to, schools for their kids and sort of, traveling and medical process and all of that. So we continue to actively match intended parents, but, the wait time could get extended a little bit. We just don't know yet. We had not yet had an extended wait time. So, typically how we handle that is we just keep in good communication with our intended parents, so you know what to expect when you are going through the consult process and then when you sign on. So a few more questions here. So your question says something about typically 6 to 9 months before COVID. I'm not sure what you are referring to is taking 6 to 9 months in regard. I don't know if that's about matching, but we are not currently experiencing a 6 to 9 month wait. It's shorter than that right now. But again, it depends on what you're looking for a surrogate in regards to any kind of geographical restrictions, et cetera. If that's not answering your question, you can let me know. Do we have surrogates that have been a surrogate before our most first-time surrogate? So we have Many surrogates that are experienced surrogates come back, they come back to Circle to be a surrogate again. Sometimes they're coming back with their former intended parents to do a sibling journey, but sometimes they're coming back to be matched with new intended parents, either because their other intended parents or their family is complete, or because they want to match with a different type of intended parent, et cetera. And so we have, both a high percentage of return surrogates as well as first-time surrogates. So for the cost question, I think it's probably best to go to the website to look at some of the cost estimates in regards to a surrogacy journey, as well as to reach out to Lauren, only because I'm one of the intended parents 14 and not one of the attorneys that goes over that with intended parents. So I think that's probably the best place to research that information. Then let's see, moral support to the surrogate. So we have social work staff. I oversee a social work team, and they are assigned to the surrogate. So each surrogate is assigned a social worker who supports them through the journey. That person is there as their primary support at Circle. They also have the support of the program coordination team with whom they have contact. So, our goal is that a surrogate has somebody who's kind of working just with them so they can talk about their feelings, what they're experiencing in their own life, because of course surrogates' lives go on during a surrogacy. They have other things that go on in their life. We want to make sure we're aware of those things and supporting them through those things. And we are having regular contact. So the social workers are having at least monthly contact with the surrogates, as well as the program coordination team. So there should not be a situation where a surrogate has things going on in her life that we're not aware of and that we're not supporting her with. And another question here is, if you have a friend who's a surrogate and you have an egg donor, can we still be helpful? Yes, sometimes we have people who come to us with a surrogate that they want to work with, but they want us to screen her, support her, and also do the kind of financial support in regards to, navigating the money things and the legal contracts for a friend surrogate type of situation. So the surrogate, in order for us to work with them, would have to meet our screening requirements as well as your clinic's requirements, but we can definitely support people in that situation. So please feel free to contact Lauren to give her that detail, and she can sort of help you navigate the next steps for that. And there's a question about a discount with Circle to do a sibling journey with the same surrogate. And yes, I don't have the actual detail of how that works, sort of what the amount is, but there is a discount typically if you're coming with your, to do a sibling journey with the same surrogate. And normally you would connect with one of the attorneys to talk about what that would look like and what you're looking for in a sibling journey, just from a logistics perspective as well as the costs. And now we have a question here about surrogates living together with the intended parents during a pregnancy. And no, we would not have that situation. Surrogates have their own lives and their own families that they're living with and taking care of. And so we would not ever ask a surrogate to live with intended parents during the pregnancy. We do encourage communication, and certainly intended parents and surrogates visit together and can see each other in their home community, et cetera. But we would never have an expectation of a surrogate living with the intended parents during the pregnancy. Surrogates have been pregnant themselves before, they've had their own children, they know what they're doing, and we want to make sure that they're able to kind of be independent and live their lives. We do want them to communicate with intended parents and share information and what's happening in the medical process, but we wouldn't have the expectation of them all living together. It's careful. We want that there be boundaries between intended parents and surrogates, and that they have their own kind of private lives and they don't get so connected that it becomes problematic. So again, another question about the surrogate screening process. So again, I think because of an interest of time, I think it's good to kind of look at our website. We have some detailed information about what the surrogate screening process entails, what types of things that the surrogate has to have in her history that allows her to be a good surrogate, what types of things we look for in a surrogate, what types of surrogates we might not accept into our program, and then sort of what information you would be provided as intended parents when you match with a surrogate. One of the questions is regarding waiting time for twins. So there is a longer wait time typically for a surrogate able to carry twins. It is both a situation where she has to be medically approved to carry twins, as well as be open to carrying twins. Twins are often a higher risk pregnancy, and so some surrogates choose not to be open to carrying two babies at the same time because they know that that might kind of become more problematic from a medical perspective, and they don't want to take that risk for themselves or for the babies. So if you want a specific kind of more information about that for yourself, then I think the situation might be to get in touch with Lauren to talk about what you're looking for in regards to a match, and then she can help sort of navigate they'll give you a sense of the wait time for that. There's a question around payment plans. Again, not something I typically cover with intended parents, but I do know that for domestic intended parents, we do have some loan options for them, as well as payment plans. We are and try to be pretty flexible in regards to helping intended parents be able to afford this process, which is quite expensive. So again, I would suggest that you get in touch with Lauren as listed below to talk about what your situation is from a financial perspective, where you live, whether or not you're international or domestic, and sort of the different things that you can consider in regards to afford this process. But we do have different options. We are, as Amanda had mentioned earlier, we do have some sort of fixed cost options for intended parents to help take the financial stress out of this process. Okay, and the next one is a thank you. So that's the end of the questions that I see here. Oh wait, one more, sorry. Is it possible to choose the gender? So some intended parents do genetic testing on the embryos, and so then it is possible to choose the gender of your baby if you do that genetic testing, because you can obviously know if the embryo is male or female. So that is possible. That would be something you would do with your IVF doctor. Okay. Another thank you. And then if you want to have a baby in summer of 2022, what is the best time to start this process? So, we typically suggest that people give themselves kind of an 18-month window if they're trying to kind of aim for a certain time frame, because not the first transfer, if the first transfer is not successful, you give yourself a little wiggle room. But I guess my suggestion, knowing that it's halfway through 2020, would be to schedule a consultation at this point so you can talk about the things and learn more about the things to consider before starting your journey. We typically like to talk to people anytime. If they're thinking about starting a journey within a year, we're happy to talk to you and to give you more information and to talk about the different things to consider so that you're educated. I myself went through an adoption, and I think it's important to have as much information as possible as you're making decisions about how you're going to build your family. So, I would start with a consultation to make sure you know kind of if you're aiming for a certain time frame, what kinds of things you need to think about, so you're kind of one step ahead of the game and you're not doing things kind of too late for your time frame. Okay, that is it. So Jen, I don't know if you have anything else to say, or we are wrapping up.
It looks like that's it for questions. I just want to quickly let everyone know about our webinar series. If you want to take a look at the screen right now, some of our webinars that are coming up in July. We have one on July 9th with CCRM in Boston, one comparing surrogacy agencies and cost, an overview of U.S. surrogacy for intended parents in the U.S., why surrogate screening is important for parents, and then Infertility and Surrogacy 101, Growing Your Family. That is with PFC LA with Dr. Sahakian, and that's scheduled for July 30th. So if any of these interest you, please feel free to go on our website, click on our events page, and go ahead and register. But that's about it for now. I want to thank you everyone for attending, and thank Amanda and Emily for joining us today. And I hope everyone has a great day.